Rey stands alone in the ruined throne room of the Death Star. Lightning crashes outside. The Wayfinder pulses with dark energy in her trembling hand. And then he appears. Luke Skywalker's ghost, blazing with purpose, ready to guide her to face the one enemy he couldn't fully defeat in life, Emperor Palpatine. But this time, everything will be different. This time, Luke won't let his student face the darkness alone. What if Luke's Force ghost didn't just offer cryptic wisdom and disappear? What if he became Rey's constant companion, her mentor through every step of the journey to Exegol? What if the legendary Jedi Master, having learned from all his failures, finally got the chance to do what he should have done for Ben Solo? The galaxy's fate would change forever. And so would Rey's. This is the story of that journey. A journey where the last Jedi Master guides the heir to the Sith through the darkest places in the galaxy. Where every lesson learned in death prepares a student for the ultimate confrontation. Where sacrifice and redemption become the weapons that finally, truly end the Sith forever. Our story begins on Ajan Kloss, the hidden resistance base where hope flickers like a candle in the wind. Rey has been training relentlessly, pushing herself beyond her limits, trying to prove she's worthy of the legacy she's inherited. She practices with her lightsaber among the ancient trees, sweat dripping down her face, frustration mounting with each failed attempt to levitate boulders and navigate obstacle courses while blindfolded. She's been hearing whispers in the Force, disturbances she can't quite understand. The Resistance has intercepted fragments of that terrifying broadcast, and General Leia Organa can feel it in her bones. Something ancient and evil has returned. On this particular morning, as Rey meditates in a clearing, something different happens. The air grows cold despite the tropical heat. The sounds of the jungle fade to silence. Rey opens her eyes, and there he stands, Luke Skywalker. Not the broken, bitter hermit she met on Ahch-To, but the Luke who has transcended death itself, who has learned what it truly means to be a Jedi. His form shimmers with that ethereal blue light, but his presence is powerful, undeniable, and filled with purpose. Rey rises quickly, her heart pounding. She last saw him during her training, when he appeared briefly alongside Leia, but he hadn't spoken much then. Now, he looks at her with an intensity that reminds her of the stories she's heard about the legendary Jedi Master. Luke speaks, his voice carrying both warmth and urgency. He tells her that he knows about Palpatine, he knows about the broadcast, and he knows that she's afraid. Rey tries to deny it, tries to stand tall and confident, but Luke sees through her. He always could. He tells her that fear is not something to be ashamed of. He was afraid when he faced Vader. He was afraid when he faced the Emperor. And his fear, his anger, nearly destroyed him. But Luke has had time since his death. Time to reflect, to learn, to grow beyond the limitations of his physical form. The Force has shown him things, revealed truths he couldn't see when he was alive. He knows now that he failed her once, when he considered striking down Ben Solo. He let his fear of the future poison his judgment, and that single moment of weakness destroyed everything he'd built. He won't make that mistake again. This time, he won't abandon his student when she needs him most. Rey feels tears forming in her eyes. She tells Luke about the visions she's been having, the darkness she feels calling to her. She tells him about the voice that whispers her name in her dreams, promising power, promising belonging. Luke listens patiently, and when she finishes, he does something unexpected. He smiles. Not the sad, regretful smile she saw on Ahch-To, but a genuine expression of understanding. He tells her that he understands that call better than anyone. The dark side is seductive because it offers simple answers to complex questions. It promises strength to those who feel weak, control to those who feel powerless. But it's a lie, a trap that feeds on fear and anger until there's nothing left of who you were. Luke extends his hand, and though it's made of light and energy, Rey can somehow feel it as solid and real. He asks her to take it. He asks her to trust him. He has been watching, learning, exploring the mysteries of the Force that were hidden from him in life. He has discovered things about the Sith, about Palpatine, about the dark places in the galaxy where ancient evil festers. And he can guide her. He can help her prepare for what's coming. But she has to choose to accept his help. She has to choose to walk this path. Rey doesn't hesitate. She takes his hand. The moment their hands connect, even though his is not truly physical, she feels a surge of energy. Images flood her mind. She sees Luke's past, his triumphs and failures, his journey from farm boy to Jedi Knight, to broken exile to transcendent Force spirit. She sees his confrontation with the Emperor, the throne room where he nearly lost himself to hatred. She sees his father's redemption, Anakin Skywalker's return to the light. And she sees threads of possibility stretching into the future, paths that diverge and reconverge, leading to a dark world where lightning tears through the sky and an ancient evil waits. When the vision fades, Rey gasps, stumbling backward. Luke steadies her with words, telling her to breathe, to center herself. What she just experienced was a taste of what he can show her, the knowledge he can share. But they don't have much time. Palpatine's broadcast wasn't just a message of terror. It was a rallying cry, a call to all the dark forces scattered across the galaxy. The Sith Eternal, the Emperor's cultists. They've been preparing for this moment for decades. They have a fleet, a final order that could crush the resistance and enslave the galaxy forever. But there's a way to stop them. There's always a way. Rey asks the obvious question: how? How can they possibly stand against the Emperor? He survived death once before. Luke's expression grows serious. He tells her that Palpatine didn't truly survive. What returned is something else, something sustained by dark rituals and Sith alchemy, clinging to existence through sheer malevolent will. The Emperor's body was destroyed on the second Death Star, but his essence, his consciousness, was transferred to a clone body prepared on Exegol. But that body is failing, deteriorating. Palpatine needs something from her. He needs her specifically. Rey's blood, her lineage, her power. And that need is both his greatest weapon and his greatest weakness. Rey's blood runs cold. She asks what Luke means by her lineage. Luke's face fills with compassion as he delivers the truth she's been dreading. Palpatine is her grandfather. The Emperor had a son, a failed experiment who rejected the dark side and tried to live a normal life. That son was her father. Her parents died protecting her from Palpatine's servants, hiding her on Jakku where the Emperor's reach couldn't find her. She carries the bloodline of the galaxy's greatest evil. But Luke is quick to add that blood doesn't determine destiny. He would know. Darth Vader was his father, and he still found his way to the light. He still helped redeem Anakin Skywalker. She can do the same. She can face her grandfather and reject everything he represents. Rey feels the weight of this revelation crushing down on her. All her life, she waited for her parents, believed they would return for her. Now she knows they never could. They died for her. And the grandfather she never knew is a monster who wants to use her for his own resurrection. Luke gives her space to process this. but he also reminds her that they have work to do. Leia needs to know about this. The Resistance needs to prepare. And Rey needs training, real training, the kind that will prepare her to face a Sith Lord. Over the following days, Luke's Force ghost becomes a constant presence in Rey's life. He appears during her training sessions, offering guidance that goes far beyond what he could teach her on Ahch-To. He shows her techniques that Obi-Wan and Yoda taught him, and even some he's learned from other Force ghosts he's communed with in death. Anakin Skywalker himself, now one with the Force, has shared knowledge with Luke, perspectives on both the light and dark that only someone who walked both paths could provide. Luke teaches Rey about Force healing, a rare ability that requires the Jedi to transfer their own life energy to another. He teaches her about Force bonds, the connections that can form between individuals strong in the Force, and warns her about how those bonds can be exploited. He teaches her ancient meditation techniques that can shield her mind from psychic attacks. Most importantly, he teaches her about balance. The Jedi of old, he explains, were too rigid in their thinking. They saw the Force as light versus dark, good versus evil. But the Force is more complex than that. It's life itself, encompassing all emotions, all experiences. The key is not to suppress emotion or deny passion, but to acknowledge these things without being controlled by them. Rey struggles with some of these concepts. She's angry about what happened to her parents. She's angry about being abandoned on Jakku. She's angry about Palpatine, about the First Order, about everything that's been taken from her. Luke doesn't tell her to let go of that anger. Instead, he teaches her to channel it without letting it consume her. Anger can fuel determination. Fear can inspire caution. Even hate can be transformed into a fierce love for what you're protecting. The dark side wins when you let these emotions control you, when you use them to dominate and destroy rather than protect and preserve. During one training session, Rey faces a challenge Luke has created for her using the Force. He manifests illusions, shadows of her fears and doubts. She sees Kylo Ren, sees him extending his hand again, offering partnership in ruling the galaxy. She sees Palpatine, sees him offering her the throne, the power to reshape everything. She sees herself twisted by the dark side, eyes burning yellow with Sith corruption. And she has to fight through all of it without giving in to rage or despair. She fails the first time, and the second, and the third. But Luke is patient now in ways he never was in life. He encourages her, reminds her that failure is the greatest teacher, that every fall is an opportunity to rise stronger. By the end of the week, Rey can face the illusions without flinching, can acknowledge the darkness within herself without being seduced by it. She understands now what Luke is trying to teach her. The dark side will always be there, whispering, tempting. But she doesn't have to answer its call. Meanwhile, Leia has been organizing the Resistance's response to Palpatine's threat. The general, older now and weary from decades of war, meets with Luke's Force ghost privately one evening. The reunion between the twins is bittersweet. Leia tells her brother that she felt him die on Ahch-To, felt the moment he became one with the Force. She was angry with him for so long, angry that he gave up, that he hid while the galaxy burned. But she also understands. They both lost Ben to the dark side. Both failed him in different ways. Luke apologizes to his sister, tells her that he let his fear of the future blind him to the present. But he's here now, and he can help. Leia shares what the Resistance has learned. Their spies have intercepted communications suggesting that Palpatine is on Exegol, a hidden Sith world in the unknown regions. But getting there requires a Sith wayfinder, an ancient navigational device that can chart a course through the chaotic hyperspace, routes surrounding the planet. There are 2 known wayfinders. One was on Vader's fortress on Mustafar, claimed by Kylo Ren. The other is somewhere else, hidden, its location lost to time. Without a wayfinder, they can't reach Exegol. They can't strike at the source of this threat. Luke reveals that he knows where the second wayfinder is. In his years of research before he exiled himself, he discovered references to it in ancient texts. The wayfinder is hidden in the wreckage of the second Death Star, on the ocean moon of Kef Bir. It's in the Emperor's throne room, or what remains of it. The same place where Palpatine fell, where Anakin Skywalker fulfilled the prophecy and destroyed the Sith. There's a poetic symmetry to it, Luke notes. To defeat the Emperor again, Rey must visit the place where he was defeated before. But there's a complication. The Death Star wreckage is unstable, pounded by fierce waves, and the throne room is deep within the structure. It's a dangerous journey even without considering the dark side energy that permeates the place. That much death, that much evil, it leaves an imprint on the Force. Rey will have to confront the echoes of what happened there. She'll have to walk through shadows of the past. Luke offers to guide her through it, to help her navigate both the physical dangers and the spiritual ones. Rey asks if he'll be with her the entire journey. Luke's expression becomes regretful. He explains that manifesting as a Force ghost requires energy, concentration. He can appear to her, guide her, but he can't maintain his presence constantly. There will be times when she'll have to rely on her training, her instincts, her own strength. But he'll be there when she needs him most. He promises her that. The Resistance prepares for the mission. Finn and Poe volunteer to accompany Rey, unwilling to let her face this danger alone. They've become more than friends. They've become family, the family she never had on Jakku. Rose and Connix work on preparing a ship that can handle the rough seas of Kef Bir. Leia oversees it all, and in a private moment with Rey, she shares her own wisdom. Leia tells Rey that she sees so much potential in her, so much light. But she also sees the fear, the doubt. She tells Rey something important. Being powerful in the Force doesn't make you special. It's what you choose to do with that power that matters. Rey could become the most powerful Force user in the galaxy and still fall to the dark side if she doesn't guard her heart. Rey asks Leia if she ever felt tempted by the dark side. Leia smiles sadly and admits that she did. When she learned that Vader was her father, she was furious. She was disgusted. He had tortured her, destroyed her home world, killed people she loved. The darkness inside her whispered that she should hate him, that she should become strong enough to destroy everything the Empire represented, no matter the cost. But she chose differently. She chose to love instead, of hate, to build instead of destroy. And that made all the difference. The day of the mission arrives. The ship, a modified transport with reinforced hull plating, sits ready on the landing pad. Rey, Finn, and Poe board it, along with Chewbacca and BB-8. As they prepare for launch, Luke's Force ghost appears one more time, visible only to Rey. He tells her that he's proud of her, that she's already surpassed his expectations. Whatever happens on Kef Bir, whatever she faces, she needs to remember that she's not alone. She carries the legacy of all the Jedi who came before her, not just in power, but in wisdom. And she carries the love of her friends, her found family. That's more powerful than any Sith magic. The journey to Kef Bir takes them through hyperspace lanes rarely traveled, past the edges of known space where the maps grow thin and uncertain. Poe, an exceptional pilot, navigates with a combination of skill and luck that only someone attuned to the Force could appreciate. Finn sits with Rey during the journey, sensing her nervousness even though she tries to hide it. He tells her that he understands being afraid of where you come from. He was taken from his family as a child, raised to be a weapon for the First Order. But he chose to be something else. He chose to be himself. Rey can do the same. They emerge from hyperspace near Kef Bir, and the sight takes their breath away. The ocean moon is beautiful in a haunting way, its surface covered by turbulent seas that stretch to every horizon. And rising from those seas like a titan's corpse is the wreckage of the Death Star. The massive fragments of the battle station jut into the sky, twisted metal and broken systems that once powered a weapon capable of destroying planets. It's been decades since the Battle of Endor, but the wreckage remains, a monument to the Empire's fall and the terrible cost of war. They land on a rocky outcropping where a small community has formed. The Kef Bir natives, descendants of rebels and refugees who settled here after the war, eye them with curiosity and caution. One of them, a young woman named Janna, approaches. She's a warrior. That much is obvious from the way she moves, the way she assesses potential threats. She asks what brings them to this remote place. Rey explains that they need to reach the Death Star wreckage, specifically the throne room. Janna's expression darkens. She tells them that the wreckage is cursed. People who venture too deep into it sometimes don't come back. And those who do return, changed, haunted by visions and nightmares. The old ones in the community say that the Emperor's evil still lingers there, waiting to corrupt anyone foolish enough to seek it out. But she also understands that sometimes you have to face dangerous things. She and her people were all stormtroopers once, conscripts like Finn, who broke their conditioning and escaped. They understand fighting for something greater than yourself. Janna offers to guide them to the wreckage. She has a boat capable of navigating the violent seas, and she knows the safest approaches to the massive structure. The journey across the water is treacherous. Waves as tall as buildings crash against their small vessel, and rain lashes them with stinging force. The sea seems almost alive, angry, as if it remembers the terrible weapon that fell into its depths all those years ago. Poe helps Janna with the steering, his pilot's instincts translating well to maritime navigation. Finn holds onto the railing, his face pale but determined. Chewbacca howls against the wind, a mournful sound that speaks to the pain this place holds. BB-8, secured in a waterproof compartment, chirps nervously as the boat pitches and rolls. But Janna is an expert sailor, and they make it to the base of the wreckage as the storm begins to ease, though the seas remain rough and dangerous. The entrance they use is a gaping wound in the Death Star's hull, a massive breach created during the battle that destroyed it. The edges are corroded by decades of salt water, and strange barnacle-like growths cling to the metal, creatures that have adapted to live in this toxic environment. Inside, the corridors are dark and twisted, flooded in places, collapsed in others. Emergency lighting still functions sporadically, casting eerie red glows through the passages. The power systems, designed to last for generations, continue their automated functions even though their masters are long dead. Every sound echoes strangely in these halls, and the force here feels wrong, tainted by the darkness that once commanded this station. Rey can feel it pressing against her mind, whispering words she can't quite make out, showing her images of power and domination. She sees flashes of Imperial officers executing prisoners. She sees the moment when Alderaan died, feels the echo of billions of lives snuffed out in an instant. She sees the Emperor sitting on his throne, orchestrating pain and suffering across the galaxy with casual indifference. The dark side wants her to feel these things, wants her to understand what power really means, wants to seduce her with the promise that she could prevent such atrocities if she only embraced the strength to dominate others. Luke's Force Ghost appears beside her, his light cutting through the darkness like a beacon. He tells her to stay focused, to shield her mind the way he taught her. This place wants to corrupt her, wants to turn her pain and anger into weapons for the dark side. She must not let it. The wreckage itself seems to resist their progress, as if the station's malevolent spirit doesn't want them to reach the throne room. Doors are jammed, requiring them to use the force or brute strength to open. Passages are flooded with stagnant water that reeks of decay. They encounter the remains of stormtroopers, skeletons still in their armor, who died trying to escape as the Death Star tore itself apart. They begin the long climb through the wreckage, following the Force toward the throne room. Luke guides them around the most dangerous areas, warning them of structural weaknesses and pockets of toxic gas that linger from decades-old fires. He points out safe paths through sections where the floor has become unstable, where one wrong step could send them plunging into the flooded depths below. His knowledge of the station's layout, burned into his memory from his own time here, proves invaluable. He remembers these corridors, remembers running through them with his father's body, desperate to escape before the reactor exploded. As they climb higher into the wreckage, Rey begins to see things more clearly. Flickers of the past playing out like holograms in the corners of her vision, but stronger now, more detailed. She sees Imperial officers rushing through these corridors, fleeing as the station tears itself apart. She sees stormtroopers dying as bulkheads collapse and reactor fires consume entire sections. She sees TIE fighter pilots scrambling for their ships, most of them never making it to the hangars. And she sees the throne room as it was, pristine and terrible, where Palpatine held court over an empire built on fear. She sees Luke, younger then, facing his father and the Emperor, sees the lightsaber duel that decided the fate of the galaxy. Luke tells her that these are echoes, imprints left in the Force by moments of strong emotion. Death, fear, pain. They all leave marks on places like this. But there's something else here too, something that gives him hope. He can feel traces of light in the darkness. His father's final choice. The moment when Anakin Skywalker returned and destroyed the Emperor to save his son. That left an imprint too. Love, sacrifice, redemption. These things also echo in the Force. Rey just has to listen for them beneath the screaming of the dark side. They reach a massive chamber where the wreckage opens up, and they can see the storm-tossed ocean far below through gaps in the structure. The wind howls through this space, and rain pours in from the broken ceiling. The chamber is filled with the remains of technology, massive computer banks and control systems that once coordinated the Death Star's operations. Now they're rusted hulks, homes to seabirds and the strange creatures that have colonized the wreckage. Finn spots something disturbing. Scratch marks on the walls, recent ones, as if something large has been moving through these passages. Jannah confirms his suspicions. There are creatures in the deep parts of the wreckage, things that have mutated from exposure to the station's reactor leaks and the dark side energy. They're territorial and dangerous. Rey asks if they should turn back, find another way. Luke shakes his head. They're close now, very close. The throne room is just beyond the next section of corridor. They can't afford to take a longer route. Time is running out. Every minute they waste here is another minute that Palpatine has to prepare, to gather his strength, to launch his fleet. Rey realizes they can feel the Wayfinder calling to her through the Force now, can sense its location with crystal clarity. It's like a beacon, dark and cold, but unmistakable. They press forward, but the path is blocked by wreckage, massive beams and collapsed walls that would take hours to clear by conventional means. The chamber where this blockage occurred was clearly some kind of reactor control room, and the explosion that destroyed it was catastrophic. Finn suggests they find another way, but Rey shakes her head. She can feel the Wayfinder calling to her through the Force, can sense its location with crystal clarity. And she knows, with absolute certainty, that this is the way they must go. There are no other paths that will get them there in time. She reaches out with the Force, feeling the weight of the debris, the balance points, the weak spots. The metal is corroded, weakened by decades of saltwater exposure, but it's still incredibly heavy. She can feel Luke's presence beside her, not physically helping but guiding her, showing her how to distribute the effort, how to draw on the living force around her rather than just her own strength. She thinks of Master Yoda, lifting Luke's X-Wing from the swamp, proving that size matters not. She thinks of her own journey, from a nobody on Jakku to standing here, about to face her destiny. And then, with Luke guiding her, she begins to lift. It's the most difficult Force feat she's ever attempted. The debris weighs tons, and her arms shake with the effort of holding it suspended. Not just her arms, her entire body trembles. Sweat pours down her face, mixing with the rain that drips from her hair. She can feel blood vessels in her eyes, threatening to burst from the strain. Every muscle screams in protest. But she holds it, inch by painful inch, raising the massive obstruction. She uses every technique Luke taught her, drawing on the living force around her, channeling energy rather than just exerting raw power. She reaches out to the life she can feel even in this place of death, the sea creatures below, the birds nesting in the wreckage, even the strange mutated things that lurk in the shadows. All life is connected through the Force, and she draws on that connection. Slowly, painfully, the debris shifts. A path clears. Rey can feel her strength waning, can feel the darkness of this place trying to take advantage of her exhaustion, whispering that she could do this so much more easily if she just gave in to her anger, her fear. But she rejects that voice. She maintains control, maintains her connection to the light, and finally, mercifully, the path is clear enough for them to pass. When she releases the debris, letting it crash back down behind them, Rey nearly collapses from exhaustion. Her legs buckle and she starts to fall. But Finn catches her. He tells her that what she just did was incredible, beyond anything he's ever seen. She needs to rest, even if just for a moment. They can't have her facing the throne room in this condition. Rey wants to argue, wants to press on, but she knows he's right. She sits on a broken piece of bulkhead, breathing hard, letting her strength return. Poe offers her water from his canteen, and she drinks gratefully. The water tastes of the purification tablets they use, chemical and unpleasant. But it's wet and she's desperately thirsty. Chewbacca stands guard, his bowcaster ready, watching the shadows for any sign of the creatures Jannah mentioned. Luke's Force ghost kneels beside Rey, and even though he can't physically touch her, she feels comfort from his presence. He tells her that she's stronger than he was at her age, stronger than he ever was, really. What she just accomplished required not just power, but control, discipline, connection to the Force on a level that took him years to achieve. She's ready for what comes next. She has to believe that. Rey looks up at Luke, sees the pride in his eyes, and feels some of her confidence return. She takes one more moment to center herself, to rebuild her mental shields, and then she stands. She's ready. They move forward together. They step through the cleared passage and enter what remains of the throne room. The chamber is smaller than Rey imagined. Much of it collapsed or torn away when the Death Star broke apart. The viewport that once looked out over the battle is gone, replaced by a gaping hole that shows the stormy ocean far below. The wind whips through the chamber with howling fury, and rain pours in, pooling on the floor. The throne itself remains, twisted and broken but still recognizable, a monument to the Emperor's arrogance. Scorch marks on the floor show where Palpatine fell, where the Force lightning he unleashed on Luke reflected back on him, where Anakin Skywalker's redemption was born. And there, beside the throne, embedded in the floor and covered in corrosion, is the Sith Wayfinder. It looks like a pyramid made of dark metal, covered in inscriptions in an ancient language that hurts to look at. The symbols seem to writhe and shift when Rey tries to focus on them, and she can hear faint whispering in a tongue she doesn't understand, but that her blood recognizes. This artifact is old, far older than the Empire, older even than the Republic. It was crafted in an age when the Sith ruled openly, when the dark side was ascendant and the Jedi were nearly extinct. The dark side energy radiating from it is palpable, making the air feel thick and hard to breathe. As Rey approaches the Wayfinder, the temperature drops suddenly. Her breath mists in the air despite the warm climate of Kef Bir. And then she hears it. A voice, familiar and terrible, echoing through the Force. Palpatine's voice. Not the decrepit rasp of the broadcast, but the commanding tone he used when he ruled the galaxy. The voice tells her that she's come so far, overcome so much, all to find her way to him. It's destiny, he says. She belongs at his side, claiming her birthright as the heir to the Sith legacy. Every step of her journey has been orchestrated, guided by the Force itself to bring her to this moment. The voice tells her that she thinks she's choosing to fight him, choosing to resist, but she's really just fulfilling a design laid down generations ago. Her parents thought they could hide her, thought they could keep her from her destiny. But the Force has its own plans. She was always meant to be here, always meant to face him, always meant to become what he wants her to be. The dark side has been guiding her all along, even when she thought she was following the light. Every time she gave in to anger, every time she drew on passion to fuel her power, she was taking steps down the dark path. She's more like him than she wants to admit. Rey ignites her lightsaber, the blue blade casting dancing shadows across the ruined throne room. She shouts into the darkness that she'll never join him, never become what he wants her to be. She makes her own choices, forges her own path. She's not a puppet dancing on strings of destiny. The voice laughs, a sound like grinding metal and breaking bones. It tells her that everyone believes they have free will, right up until they don't. It felt it when she struck down Palpatine's servants with barely restrained fury. It felt it when she unleashed Force lightning in a moment of pure rage, nearly killing someone she cared about. She has darkness in her, more than she wants to acknowledge. She is his granddaughter, and the dark side flows through her veins as surely as blood. She can pretend to be a Jedi, can pretend to serve the light, but eventually, her true nature will emerge. It always does. Luke's Force ghost appears between Rey and the throne, his presence growing brighter, more solid. He tells Palpatine's Echo that the game is over, that the lies won't work anymore. Rey knows what she is, knows where she comes from, and she's chosen her own path. Having darkness within you doesn't mean surrendering to it. Luke himself struggled with the dark side, came close to falling more than once, but he chose the light again and again. That's what being a Jedi means. Not being perfect, not being without temptation, but choosing to do what's right even when what's wrong would be easier. Rey has already proven she can make that choice. She'll prove it again on Exegol. The voice shifts its attention to Luke, and suddenly the temperature drops even further. Frost begins to form on the walls, on the broken throne, on the metal surfaces of the ruined chamber. The voice mocks Luke for his failures, reminds him of Ben Solo, of how Luke's moment of fear destroyed his nephew and drove him into the arms of the dark side. It asks Luke if he really thinks he can protect this girl when he couldn't protect his own student, his own nephew, his own family. It reminds him that Ben Solo fell because of Luke's weakness, because in a moment of fear, Luke considered murder. That single instant of darkness revealed what Luke really was beneath all his pretensions of being a Jedi Master. A frightened boy pretending to be something he could never truly achieve. The voice continues its assault, telling Luke that he failed everyone who ever trusted him. He failed his students when his academy burned. He failed his sister when Ben fell. He failed Han Solo, whose son became a monster while Luke hid in exile. He failed the galaxy when the First Order rose from the Empire's ashes, and he did nothing to stop it. He failed Anakin Skywalker's legacy, squandered the sacrifice his father made to redeem him. And now he's going to fail Rey, just like he failed everyone else. She'll die on Exegol, or worse, she'll become the Empress, the heir to everything Palpatine built. And it will be Luke's fault, just like everything else has been his fault. Luke's voice is steady when he responds, and Rey can hear something in it that she's never heard before. Complete acceptance, complete peace. He tells the Echo that everything it says is true. He did fail Ben. He did fail his students. He did fail the galaxy by going into exile. He knows all of this, has had years to reflect on his mistakes, and he accepts them. But failure doesn't define him anymore. He learned from it, grew from it, became something more than he was. Death taught him what life couldn't. The Jedi of old were wrong about so many things, and one of their biggest mistakes was believing that to be a Jedi meant being perfect, meant never stumbling, never doubting, never failing. But that's not what the Force teaches. The Force is life, and life is messy, complicated, full of mistakes and second chances. He understands now that protecting someone doesn't mean shielding them from every hardship, doesn't mean making all their choices for them, doesn't mean preventing them from ever experiencing pain or loss. It means giving them the tools to face those hardships themselves, to make their own choices, to learn from their own pain. Rey is stronger than Ben ever was. Not because she has more power, not because she's had better training, but because she's faced her darkness and chosen the light again and again. She knows what she is, knows the blood that flows through her veins, and she rejects it. That's real strength. That's real power. And no amount of Sith sorcery can touch that. The Echo snarls in fury, and suddenly the throne room comes alive with dark side energy. The very air seems to thicken and darken, as if reality itself is being twisted. Shadows coalesce into forms, phantom images of Imperial guards in their red robes and ornate armor. Sith cultists in tattered black robes appear, their faces hidden behind masks carved with disturbing symbols. Even the specter of Darth Vader manifests, towering and terrible, his mechanical breathing echoing through the chamber. They're not real, Luke explains quickly to Rey. They're manifestations of the dark side, given temporary form by the residual energy in this place and Palpatine's lingering influence. They can't truly harm her unless she believes they can. But that doesn't mean they're harmless. If she lets them overwhelm her mind, if she gives in to fear, they can trap her in an illusion until she dies of thirst or exposure. Rey closes her eyes, centering herself the way Luke taught her. She remembers the training, the lessons, the meditations. She lets the force flow through her, around her, connects herself to the life of the galaxy beyond this place of death. She reaches out to the ocean below, to the creatures swimming in its depths, to the birds weathering the storm above. She reaches out to her friends standing beside her, to Finn and Poe and Chewbacca and even BB-8. She reaches out to the Resistance on Ajan Kloss, to Leia and everyone fighting for freedom. She feels all of that life, all of that light, and it anchors her against the darkness. When she opens her eyes, she can see the phantoms for what they are. Illusions, nothing more. Tricks of light and shadow and dark side energy. Given just enough substance to frighten, but not enough to truly exist. She walks forward, and the phantoms try to block her path. The Imperial Guards swing their force pikes at her, the weapons passing through her harmlessly. The Sith cultists chant in their ancient language, trying to weaken her resolve with words of power that have no power over her. Even the image of Vader reaches for her with one massive hand, but she walks right through him without flinching. The echo of Palpatine's voice screams in impotent rage, but it can do nothing as Rey reaches down and claims the Wayfinder. The moment her hand closes around the Sith artifact, she's hit by a vision so powerful that it drives her to her knees. She sees Exegol, the dark planet where Palpatine waits. She sees the massive underground chamber where the Sith Eternal performs their rituals. She sees thousands of cultists chanting in perfect unison, their voices creating harmonics that resonate with the dark side itself. She sees the clone bodies, the failed experiments floating in preservation tanks, bodies twisted and malformed, rejected by Palpatine's essence because they couldn't sustain him. And she sees the one that succeeded, just barely enough to house the Emperor's essence. A decrepit thing, more corpse than living being, kept alive only through Sith alchemy and machines and sheer malevolent will. She sees the fleet, thousands of star destroyers being built in secret factories deep beneath Exegol's surface, each one equipped with a planet-killing cannon derived from Death Star technology. She sees the plan, the vision of a galaxy enslaved. Every world under the Emperor's direct control, every person either serving the Sith or dead. She sees what will happen if Palpatine succeeds, sees civilizations burning, sees trillions dying or being forced into servitude. And she sees herself, standing before Palpatine's throne, a choice before her. In one version of the future, she strikes him down in anger and takes his place. She becomes Empress Palpatine, her eyes burning yellow with Sith corruption. And she rules the galaxy with the same iron fist her grandfather did. In another version, she refuses to fight, refuses to strike him down, and he tortures her friends to death in front of her, breaks her spirit, and possesses her body anyway. In a third version, she and Palpatine destroy each other, and the galaxy falls into chaos with no one to guide it. Every future she sees ends in tragedy, in darkness, in the light being extinguished. But then she sees one more possibility, faint and flickering, but there. A path where she finds another way, a choice that will cost her everything, but save everyone. She can't see the details, can't see exactly what that choice entails, but she knows it exists. Luke told her there's always another way, and she has to believe that. She has to have faith that when the moment comes, she'll know what to do. When the vision fades, Rey is on her knees, gasping for air. Tears stream down her face, and she can taste blood in her mouth. She must have bitten her lip during the vision. Luke helps her up, his hand somehow solid enough to support her despite being made of Force energy. He tells her that what she saw was a possible future, not a certain one. The dark side loves to show you futures designed to inspire fear and despair, to make you believe that there's no hope, no way to win. But the future isn't written. It never is. Every choice they make creates new possibilities, new paths. The vision showed her what could happen, but she has the power to change it. They all do. Finn rushes to Ray's side, concerned by how pale she looks, how badly she's shaking. He asks if she's all right, if she can continue. Ray nods, though it takes her a moment to find her voice. She tells them that she's seen what's waiting on Exegol, seen what they're up against. It's worse than they thought. The fleet isn't just big, it's massive beyond comprehension. And Palpatine isn't just powerful, he's connected to centuries of Sith knowledge and dark side energy. But they don't have a choice. They have to try. They have to fight. Because the alternative is the end of everything they care about. They take the Wayfinder and begin the journey back through the wreckage. The Phantoms don't return, but Rey can feel the darkness watching them, following them, waiting for any sign of weakness. The climb down is somehow harder than the climb up, their bodies exhausted from the physical and spiritual ordeal. Several times, they have to pause to rest, to catch their breath. Jannah leads them through sections of the wreckage that are more stable, where the floor won't give way beneath their feet. She tells them stories of her people, of the other stormtroopers who broke free from their conditioning. She asks Finn how he did it, how he found the strength to reject everything he'd been programmed to believe. Finn thinks about the question seriously before answering. He tells her that he doesn't really know. There wasn't a single moment where he decided to rebel. It was more gradual than that. Every order to hurt innocent people, every time he saw his fellow stormtroopers kill without question or mercy, every time he felt something inside him recoil from what he was being asked to do, it all added up. And then one day, when he was ordered to fire on defenseless villagers, he just couldn't. He couldn't make himself pull the trigger. And once he made that first choice to disobey, to be something other than what the First Order wanted him to be, all the other choices became easier. He chose himself. He chose to be human instead of a weapon. Jannah nods in understanding. She tells him that her moment was similar. She and her entire unit refused an order to fire on civilians. They threw down their weapons and escaped together. They expected the First Order to hunt them down, to make examples of them. But they were lucky. They crashed on Kef Bir, and the First Order assumed they died. They've been here ever since, building a life, trying to atone for the things they did before they broke free. Finn tells her that she doesn't have to atone for things she did while being controlled. The First Order stole their childhoods, their identities, their choices. What matters is what they do now, that they're free. They make it back to the boat, where the others have been waiting anxiously. The return trip across the ocean is calmer, the storm having passed, though the seas are still rough. The sun is starting to set, painting the clouds in shades of orange and red that reflect off the water. In any other circumstance, it might be beautiful. But all Rey can think about is what's coming, what they're going to have to face. She clutches the Wayfinder tightly, feeling its cold metal surface, feeling the dark side energy pulsing within it. This artifact has guided Sith Lords to Exegol for generations. Now it will guide their enemies there. There's a bitter irony in that. Back on the transport ship, as they prepare to return to Ajan Kloss, Luke's Force Ghost appears to Rey one more time in the cargo hold where she's sitting alone, trying to process everything that happened. He tells her that she did well, that she faced the darkness and didn't falter. But the hard part is still ahead. The Wayfinder will lead them to Exegol, But what happens there will test her in ways that no training can fully prepare her for. She'll have to face Palpatine himself, the most powerful Sith Lord who ever lived. And the Emperor will use every trick, every manipulation, every dark side technique he knows to break her. He'll offer her power beyond imagining. He'll threaten her friends, make her watch them suffer. He'll try to make her strike him down in anger so that his essence can possess her body. That's his plan, Luke explains. Palpatine's clone body is failing. He needs a younger, stronger host, and Rey is perfect for his purposes. She's strong in the Force, she carries his bloodline, and she has the potential to be even more powerful than he was at his peak. If he can get her to strike him down while consumed by hatred, his essence will transfer into her body, and he'll live again, stronger than ever before. Rey asks Luke how she's supposed to fight him if she can't strike him down. If every path leads to either his victory or mutual destruction, how can she possibly win? Luke smiles and tells her that's the question every Jedi must answer when facing a Sith. The dark side wants you to fight fire with fire, to embrace anger and hate in the name of defeating evil. But that's how the dark side wins. That's how it perpetuates itself, generation after generation. The Sith manipulate the Jedi into becoming like them, into compromising their principles. And then the cycle continues. His father, Anakin Skywalker, found a different way. He chose love over hate, sacrifice over power. He destroyed Palpatine by choosing to be Anakin again, not Darth Vader. He gave up everything, his power, his life, his place at the Emperor's side, all to save his son. That's what defeated Palpatine the first time. Not superior strength or better combat skills, but love. Pure, unconditional love that refused to let the darkness win. Rey will have to find her own way, her own answer. Luke can't tell her what to do when the moment comes, but he has faith in her. More faith than he's had in anything for a very long time. Rey tells Luke that she's scared. Scared of failing, scared of falling to the dark side, scared of letting everyone down. Luke sits beside her, and even though he's a Force ghost, it feels like he's really there. He tells her that being scared is natural. Fear is part of being alive, part of being human. What matters is what you do with that fear. You can let it paralyze you, or you can use it to fuel your determination. Fear can remind you of what's at stake, what you're fighting to protect. The Jedi of old tried to eliminate fear through detachment, but that was a mistake. You can't truly fight for something if you don't care deeply about it. And you can't care deeply without experiencing fear of loss. The return to Ajan Kloss is somber. The Resistance has been gathering intelligence while they were gone, and the news is grim. The First Order is mobilizing faster than expected, moving toward known Resistance positions with overwhelming force. They don't have much time before the Final Order fleet is ready to deploy. Days at most, maybe just hours. Every moment that passes brings Palpatine closer to unleashing his armada on the galaxy. Leia makes a decision. They can't wait any longer. They'll send out a call to the galaxy, to anyone who still believes in freedom, who still remembers what the rebellion fought for. They'll need every ship, every fighter, every person willing to stand against tyranny. And they'll take the fight directly to Exegol. Strike at the source before Palpatine's fleet can launch. It's a desperate plan, and everyone knows it. The chances of success are minimal at best. They'll be going into the unknown regions, to a planet specifically designed to be defensible, to face a fleet that outnumbers them hundreds to one. And even if they somehow survive the space battle, Rey will have to confront the Emperor himself, a being who has cheated death and accumulated dark side power for over a century. By any rational calculation, they should give up, should scatter to the edges of the galaxy and hope the Emperor's reach doesn't extend that far. But desperation is nothing new to the resistance. They've been outnumbered and outgunned since the beginning. What they have that the First Order doesn't is hope, and the willingness to sacrifice everything for a better future. Hope isn't logical or rational. It's a choice you make even when all the evidence suggests you should despair. It's believing that things can get better, that good can triumph over evil, that the light can never truly be extinguished as long as someone is willing to carry it forward. The resistance embodies that hope, has kept it alive through years of losses and setbacks. And they'll carry it to Exegol, no matter what the cost. Rey volunteers to lead a small strike team to confront Palpatine directly while the fleet engages the Star Destroyers. If they can eliminate the Emperor, the final order might collapse like the Empire did before it. The Sith thrive on centralized control, on the will of one being dominating all others. Take away that will, that controlling intelligence, and the entire structure crumbles. It's a long shot, but it's the only shot they have. Without the Emperor, his cultists might lose faith. His fleet might lose coordination. His entire centuries-long plan might unravel. Finn and Poe insist on coming with her. Rey tries to argue that it's too dangerous, that she can't ask them to face something like this, that she can't bear the thought of them dying because of her. But they remind her that they're not following orders, that this isn't about duty or obligation. They're doing this because they're her friends, her family. And family doesn't let each other face the darkness alone. Family stands together, no matter the odds, no matter the danger. Even Chewbacca, who has seen more than his share of war, who lost his best friend and his homeworld and so many people he cared about, growls his determination to see this through. He stood with Han Solo and Luke Skywalker against the Empire. Now he'll stand with Rey against the Emperor. Leia blesses the mission in her own way. She calls Rey into her private quarters, and the two of them sit together in the quiet. Leia tells Rey that she wishes she could go with her, wishes she could face her old enemy one more time. Palpatine destroyed her family, her homeworld, everything she loved as a child. He turned her son into a monster. He's cast a shadow over her entire life. She would give anything to be the one to end him. But her place is here, coordinating the fleet, giving the galaxy one last rallying cry for freedom. Someone has to stay behind to inspire the people, to remind them what they're fighting for. That's her role in this final battle. She hugs Rey tightly, and in that embrace, Rey feels something pass between them. A connection in the Force, a bond of shared strength and understanding. Leia is transferring some of her own life energy, her own power, bolstering Rey for what's to come. It's a gift, freely given, with no expectation of return. Leia whispers that she knows Rey will do what's right when the moment comes. She has faith in her. More than that, she's proud of her. Proud of the woman she's become, of the strength she's shown, of the compassion she's maintained despite all the darkness she's faced. Rey is everything Leia hoped Ben would be, everything she wished she could have taught her son to be. And even though their time together has been brief, Leia loves her like a daughter. Rey can barely speak through her tears. She tells Leia that she doesn't know if she's strong enough, if she can really defeat the Emperor. Leia smiles and tells her that strength isn't about power or skill. It's about heart, about refusing to give up, even when everything seems lost. Rey has that kind of strength. She's proven it again and again. Whatever happens on Exegol, whatever impossible choice she has to make, Leia knows she'll find the right path. The Force will guide her, and so will everyone who loves her, both the living and the dead. That night, Before the mission launches, Rey can't sleep. She stands outside the base, looking up at the unfamiliar stars, thinking about everything that's brought her to this moment. From a scavenger on Jakku, from a nobody with no name and no family, to the last hope of the Jedi Order. It seems impossible, like a story from the old legends. The kind of story she used to tell herself at night on Jakku, huddled in her AT-AT, dreaming of adventure and meaning and belonging. She never imagined it would feel like this. So heavy, so terrifying, so final. Luke's Force ghost appears beside her, and for a while, they just stand together in comfortable silence. The jungle around them is alive with night sounds, insects chirping and small creatures moving through the underbrush. The air is warm and humid, carrying the scent of flowers and growing things. It's peaceful here, and Rey tries to memorize this moment, this feeling of calm before the storm. Luke finally breaks the silence. He tells her about the night before he left to face Vader on the second Death Star. He was terrified, convinced he was going to die or, worse, fall to the dark side like his father. But Yoda told him something that gave him strength. Yoda said that the Force would be with him, always. Not just in that moment, but forever, connecting him to every living thing, to everyone who had come before, and everyone who would come after. Luke tells Rey that those words have never been more true. She's not alone in this fight. She carries the legacy of every Jedi who ever lived, their wisdom and their strength. She carries the love of her friends, her found family. She carries the hope of an entire galaxy. And she carries something else too. Her own strength, earned through hardship and trials, through choosing the light again and again, even when the dark side would have been easier. That's power that Palpatine can never understand, can never replicate, can never defeat. Because it comes from love. And the Sith have abandoned love in their pursuit of power. Rey asks Luke if he's scared, even now as a Force ghost. She's curious whether transcending death eliminates fear or if it stays with you always. Luke admits that he is scared. He's scared of failing her the way he failed Ben. He's scared that his guidance won't be enough, that she'll face Palpatine alone and he won't be able to help. He's scared that he'll have to watch another person he cares about die or fall to darkness. But fear doesn't have to paralyze you. It can motivate you to do better, to try harder, to never give up even when the odds seem impossible. That's what the Jedi taught him, eventually. That's what his sister taught him by never giving up on Ben, even when Luke had lost all hope. Rey tells Luke that she's grateful for him, for everything he's taught her. He gave her the tools to face this, even if he couldn't give her all the answers. Luke responds that no teacher can give their student all the answers. The most important lessons are the ones you learn yourself, through your own experiences and choices. He could teach her techniques and philosophy, but he couldn't teach her who she is, what she values, what she's willing to fight for. She had to discover those things on her own. And she has. She knows exactly who she is now. Not Palpatine's granddaughter, not just a scavenger from Jakku, but Rey. Just Rey. And that's enough. That's more than enough. The next morning, the Resistance fleet begins to assemble. Ships arrive from across the galaxy, responding to Leia's call. It's not the armada they need, not even close, but it's more than they had any right to hope for. Ordinary people, remembering the rebellion, remembering what was won and what was lost. They come because the story of the rebellion inspired them, taught them that ordinary people could stand against tyranny and win. They come in freighters and patrol craft, civilian transports retrofitted with weapons, old Republic fighters pulled out of retirement and restored by mechanics who learned their trade-fixing farming equipment. They come from core worlds and outer rim planets, from former Imperial territory and former Republic space. They come because someone has to. Because if they don't stand now, there might never be another chance. They come knowing they'll probably die, knowing the odds are overwhelmingly against them, but coming anyway, because that's what heroes do. And these are heroes, every single one of them. Not legendary Jedi or famous generals, but farmers and teachers and mechanics and pilots. People with families and dreams and lives they're putting on the line for strangers they'll never meet. This is what the Emperor can never understand. You can force people to serve through fear, but you can't force them to sacrifice willingly. That only comes from hope, from belief in something greater than yourself. Rey watches the ships arrive, feeling the weight of what they're about to attempt. All these people, trusting her, following her into the darkest place in the galaxy to face the greatest evil. She hopes she's worthy of that trust. Luke's Force ghost appears beside her one last time before the mission launches. He tells her that he won't be able to manifest on Exegol, at least not right away. The dark side presence there is too strong, too overwhelming. It will take all his strength just to pierce that veil. But he'll be watching, and if she truly needs him, if she's in genuine peril, he'll find a way to reach her. Nothing, not even the full might of the Sith, can completely sever the bonds of the Force. She needs to remember that. No matter how alone she feels on Exegol, she's connected to everyone who loves her, everyone who's fighting for her, everyone who believes in her. Rey's team boards a captured First Order shuttle, the kind that will let them slip through the enemy fleet undetected if they're lucky. The Wayfinder activates as they approach the unknown regions, projecting a holographic map of hyperspace routes that shouldn't exist. The paths are narrow, winding through gravitational anomalies and dark matter clouds that would tear apart any ship without precise navigation. These routes were deliberately hidden, obscured by Sith sorcery and natural hazards, ensuring that only those with a Wayfinder could reach Exegol. But the Wayfinder knows the way. It was designed to guide Sith Lords to their hidden sanctuaries, and now it will guide the Sith's enemies to their doorstep. The journey through the unknown regions is harrowing beyond anything they've experienced. Space itself seems hostile here, twisted by dark side energies and unnatural phenomena that violate the laws of physics. They pass through clouds of red gas that pulse like living things, expanding and contracting as if breathing. They navigate around gravity wells that appear and disappear without warning, flickering in and out of existence, any one of which could crush their ship if Poe's timing is even slightly off. They see things in the darkness between stars that shouldn't be there, vast shapes that might be creatures or might be something else entirely, something that exists outside normal categories of life. Poe's skill as a pilot is tested to its absolute limit. His hands fly across the controls, making constant micro-adjustments, flying more by instinct than instruments because the sensors can't make sense of this twisted space. More than once, they barely avoid disaster, their hulls scraping against asteroids that weren't there a moment before, their engines straining as they pull away from gravity wells that appear directly in their path. Finn holds onto his seat, his knuckles white, trying not to distract Poe with questions about whether they're going to make it. Chewbacca howls in frustration, checking and rechecking the shields, making sure they'll hold if they take a hit. But the Wayfinder leads them true, and after what feels like hours in a nightmare but is probably only 30 minutes of objective time, they emerge into normal space above a planet that shouldn't exist. Exegol. the hidden world of the Sith. From orbit, it looks like a wound in space itself, a dark sphere covered by perpetual lightning storms. The storms rage continuously, vast electrical discharges that arc across the entire planet, bright enough to be seen from space. No stars are visible in the sky around Exegol, as if the darkness of the planet has consumed even the distant light. This entire region of space feels dead, empty, devoid of the life energy that fills the rest of the galaxy. They descend through atmosphere thick with ash and static, toward coordinates the Wayfinder provides. The shuttle shakes and rattles as they enter the storm layer, lightning striking their shields again and again. The instruments go haywire, screens filling with static, sensors returning impossible readings. Poe flies blind, trusting the Force more than his training, letting his instincts guide him down through the chaos. And then they break through the lowest layer of cloud, and what they find takes their breath away. A massive chasm in the planet's surface, descending miles into the crust like a wound that never healed. And at the bottom, illuminated by the lightning above and strange red light from below, a vast underground complex that could easily hold a city. Ancient structures built from black stone, covered in Sith runes and statues of dark lords whose names have been forgotten by history. This place predates Palpatine by millennia, maybe even predates the Republic itself. It's one of the old Sith strongholds, a temple or academy where the ancient Sith learned their dark arts, where they performed their rituals and honed their power. The Emperor has claimed it for his own, twisted it to serve his purpose. But the fundamental evil of this place was here long before him. They land the shuttle on a platform near what appears to be the main entrance, a massive archway carved with scenes of conquest and domination. The structure towers above them, impossibly huge, clearly built by and for beings who wanted to inspire awe and terror in equal measure. Rey steps out of the shuttle and immediately feels the oppressive weight of the dark side. It's like walking into a wall of malevolence, so thick and heavy that it's hard to breathe. The air itself feels wrong, too hot and too cold at the same time, charged with energy that makes her skin crawl. Finn and Poe feel it too, even though they're not Force sensitive. This isn't subtle dark side influence. This is overwhelming, crushing evil that presses down on your soul. Finn asks if they're really going to go in there, into that nightmare. Rey wants to tell him no, wants to tell all of them to stay with the ship while she goes in alone. But she knows they won't listen. They've come this far together. They'll finish it together. Poe checks his blaster, making sure it's fully charged, and jokes weakly that he's seen worse. They all know he's lying, but they appreciate the attempt at levity. Chewbacca roars his readiness, his bowcaster loaded, and his loyalty absolute. They enter the structure, moving through corridors that feel more like the inside of a living thing than a building. The walls seem to pulse with dark energy, and carvings on the stone seem to writhe when you're not looking directly at them. Sith runes glow with a faint red light, forming words in a language that predates the modern galactic alphabet. Rey can almost read them, can almost understand what they say, and that terrifies her. She shouldn't be able to read ancient Sith script, but her blood recognizes these words, and that recognition makes her feel sick. They pass chambers filled with Sith artifacts accumulated over millennia, holocrons containing the knowledge of long-dead Sith lords. Weapons forged in dark side energy, swords and axes, and instruments of torture. Tomes of forbidden knowledge, bound in leather that might not be animal hide. The artifacts call to Rey, whisper promises of power and secrets. She forces herself to keep moving, to not look too closely at any of them. This is what the dark side does. It tempts you with knowledge and power, makes you think that just looking won't hurt, that you can touch darkness without being corrupted. But that's a lie. Every step down that path makes it harder to turn back. They pass laboratories where clone bodies float in Bacta tanks, and the sight makes Ray's stomach turn. Failed experiments with twisted features and malformed limbs, some barely recognizable as human. Bodies that were supposed to host Palpatine's essence, but were rejected, cast aside like broken tools. The Emperor has been trying to perfect his resurrection for decades, has gone through countless clone bodies in his quest for immortality. The Final Order isn't just a fleet. It's an entire infrastructure dedicated to restoring Sith dominance over the galaxy. And it's been growing in secret since before Rey was even born. They move deeper into the structure, following passages that seem to lead ever downward. The temperature rises as they descend, and the red light grows brighter. They can hear sounds now, distant at first, but growing louder. Chanting, thousands of voices raised in unison, speaking words in that ancient Sith language that Rey's blood understands even though her mind rejects it. The chanting creates harmonics that resonate in the Force itself, ripples of dark side energy that wash over them in waves. Rey has to constantly reinforce her mental shields, has to actively resist the pressure of all that concentrated malevolence. Eventually, after what feels like hours of walking through this nightmare, they reach the throne room. And it's here that the true horror of Exegol reveals itself. The chamber is enormous, so vast that they can barely see the far walls. Carved from living rock and illuminated by crackling energy that arcs between massive pylons. The ceiling is lost in shadow far above, and the floor is polished black stone that reflects the lightning like dark glass. And filling the chamber, arranged in concentric circles around a central throne, are thousands upon thousands of Sith cultists. The Sith Eternal, true believers who have kept the faith through the Empire's fall and the dark times that followed. They wear robes of deepest black, their faces hidden behind masks carved to resemble ancient Sith lords. They chant in perfect unison, their voices joining into a droning harmony that resonates in the Force like a wound, like reality itself screaming in pain. This is the heart of the Sith presence in the galaxy, the source of all that evil, and it's more terrible than anything Rey imagined. And on the throne, suspended by mechanical arms and life support systems that look more like instruments of torture than medical equipment, is Emperor Palpatine. He's barely recognizable as human anymore, barely recognizable as anything living. The clone body is failing catastrophically, his flesh gray and withered, hanging loose on bones that are visible beneath translucent skin. His eyes are milky and blind, sunken deep in their sockets. His hands are gnarled claws, barely capable of movement. But when he senses Rey's presence, when he feels her enter his throne room, those dead eyes somehow focus on her, and power radiates from him like heat from a dying star. His voice, when he speaks, echoes through both the chamber and the Force itself, amplified by the chanting of his cultists and the dark side energy of Exegol. He welcomes her, his granddaughter, the heir to his legacy. She has come as he knew she would, drawn by destiny and the bonds of blood that cannot be broken. Every step of her journey has led to this moment, to this choice. Everything that's happened, every hardship she's endured, every victory she's won, all of it was part of the design, part of the path that brings her to him now. Rey ignites her lightsaber, the blue blade a defiant point of light in the overwhelming darkness. The blade seems almost pathetic here, a candle against the night, but she holds it steady. She tells Palpatine that she's not here to claim any legacy, that she's not his heir or his granddaughter or anything to do with him. She's here to end him, to end the Sith forever, to make sure that this evil can never rise again. She's here to finish what Luke Skywalker and Anakin Skywalker started all those years ago on the second Death Star. The Sith will die. Today. Here. Now. Palpatine laughs, and the sound is like the death of civilizations, like stars going cold and worlds dying. The laughter echoes off the walls, is taken up by his cultists, becomes a wave of mocking cruelty that washes over Rey and her friends. He tells her that the Sith cannot be ended, cannot be killed, cannot be defeated. They are eternal, undying, an inevitable force like entropy itself, like heat death, like the ultimate victory of disorder over order. Every generation thinks they've defeated the dark side, and every generation learns that it was merely sleeping, waiting for its moment to return. He's been preparing for this moment longer than she's been alive, longer than her parents were alive, longer than most species in the galaxy have had civilization. He offers her a choice, the same choice he offered Luke Skywalker, but refined, perfected, made irresistible. Strike him down in hatred, let her rage and anger fuel the blow, and his essence will pass into her. She will become Empress Palpatine, ruler of the Final Order, with the power to reshape the galaxy according to her will. She could end poverty, end war, end suffering itself. All the power of the Sith, all their accumulated knowledge, it could all be hers. She could use it for good, she tells herself. She could be better than him, or refuse and watch as her friends die. Watch as the resistance is crushed. Watch as every world that ever defied him is reduced to ash and slaves. He'll make her watch it all, will force her to feel every death, every scream, every moment of suffering. And in the end, when she's broken and begging, he'll possess her body anyway. But by then, everyone she loves will be dead. And she'll have to live with the knowledge that she could have saved them if she'd only made the right choice when it was offered. Above them, transmitted through the Force in real time, Rey can sense the battle beginning. The Resistance fleet has arrived, dropping out of hyperspace and immediately coming under fire from the Final Order Star Destroyers. Ships are dying. People are dying. She can feel each death like a knife, feel the light of the galaxy dimming with each life extinguished. And if she doesn't stop Palpatine soon, if she doesn't find a way to end this, it will all be for nothing. Everyone will die. Everything will end. The darkness will win. Rey takes a deep breath, centering herself, and in her mind, she calls out to Luke. She needs him. She needs his guidance. She needs to know what to do. And Luke answers. His voice comes to her through the Force, steady and calm and full of love. He reminds her of what he taught her. The dark side wants simple solutions, wants you to fight evil with evil, wants you to believe that power is the answer to every problem. But there's always another way. Always. She just has to be brave enough to find it, even when the obvious path seems like the only option. Rey deactivates her lightsaber, and the gesture surprises everyone in the throne room. The cultists' chanting falters for a moment. Palpatine leans forward on his throne, his blind eyes somehow still managing to convey curiosity and contempt. She tells the Emperor that she understands what he wants now, understands his plan completely. He needs her to strike him down in anger so he can possess her body, use her youth and strength and power to extend his miserable existence. But she won't give him that satisfaction. She won't play his game. She won't let him dictate the terms of this confrontation. Instead, She does something that no Jedi has ever done when facing a Sith Lord. She opens herself completely to the Force, not drawing on it for power, not using it as a weapon, but connecting to it, becoming one with it, becoming a channel for the life energy of the entire galaxy. She reaches out through the Force to everyone fighting above, to every ship in the Resistance fleet, to every person who answered Leia's call. She reaches out to Finn and Poe standing beside her. She reaches out to Leia on Ajan Kloss, feeling the general's strength even across the vast distance. She reaches out to her parents, long dead but never forgotten, their love for her and eternal presence in the Force. And she calls out to the Jedi who came before, the guardians of peace and justice, who faced the darkness in their own times. She calls them not as a Jedi seeking power, but as someone seeking wisdom, seeking guidance, seeking the strength that comes from community and connection. And they answer. Luke's Force ghost appears first, growing brighter and more solid than Rey has ever seen him, his presence pushing back the darkness of Exegol through sheer force of will. And beside him, other figures begin to manifest. Leia appears, using the last of her strength across the stars to project herself to this place, to stand with Rey in this final moment. Her body on Ajan Kloss is failing. Her life energy nearly depleted, but she pours everything she has left into this manifestation because Rey needs her, and Leia has never abandoned anyone who needed her. Yoda appears, the ancient Jedi master whose wisdom guided the Order for centuries, whose final lesson to Luke about failure being the greatest teacher resonates here in this moment. Obi-Wan Kenobi appears, serene and confident, even in the heart of darkness. The negotiator who always believed that words and understanding could triumph over violence. Mace Windu appears, the champion who walked the line between light and dark and never fell, who understood that sometimes to fight evil, you must acknowledge the darkness within yourself without surrendering to it. Qui-Gon Jinn appears, the maverick who trusted the living Force over doctrine, who saw the good in a child everyone else feared. Ahsoka Tano appears, the one who walked away from the Jedi Order when it lost its way, but never stopped being a guardian. Kanan Jarrus and Ezra Bridger appear, the master and apprentice who rebuilt the Jedi tradition from almost nothing during the dark times of the Empire. They appear one by one, legends made manifest, until Rey is surrounded by dozens of Force ghosts, a chorus of light that pushes back against the darkness. The chamber grows brighter, the oppressive weight of the dark side lifting. The cultists' chanting becomes screams of fear as they feel the presence of so many Jedi. Palpatine feels them too, and he recoils. His blind eyes go wide with something that might actually be fear. He hisses that this is impossible, that the dead are dead, that they have no power here in the heart of Sith territory. The living must always be more powerful than the dead. But Luke speaks, his voice carrying the weight of all the Jedi who stand with him. He tells Palpatine that the Emperor is wrong. The Jedi are never truly gone. They live in the Force, in the light that exists in every living thing, in every act of kindness and compassion and self-sacrifice. And that light is stronger than the darkness because it chooses to exist without dominating, without controlling. It simply is, eternal and unchanging, patient and persistent, waiting for those brave enough to embrace it. The Sith cultists begin to panic, their chanting breaking into screams of fear. Some try to flee, pushing toward the exits, their faith shattered by the manifestation of so many Jedi. The carefully orchestrated ritual is falling apart, the dark side energy they've been channeling becoming unstable. Palpatine, desperate now, unleashes his full power. Force lightning erupts from his fingertips, but not aimed at Rey or the Jedi spirits. He aims upward at the ceiling, and the energy arcs through the stone and metal and earth, reaching up through miles of rock to space above. The lightning spreads across the Resistance fleet like a web, targeting ships indiscriminately. Rey can feel her friends dying, can feel the X-Wings and freighters and transport ships being torn apart by the Emperor's wrath. Palpatine is channeling all the dark side energy of Exegol, all the accumulated evil of this place, using it to kill everyone Rey cares about. He's trying to break her, trying to make her strike him down in a rage to stop the killing. And it's working. Rey can feel her anger rising, feel the temptation to just end him, to cross the chamber and drive her lightsaber through his withered heart. But then she remembers Luke's lesson, remembers what Anakin did in the throne room of the second Death Star. She looks at the Force ghosts around her, at Luke especially, and she understands. The only way to truly defeat Palpatine, the only way to end this cycle of darkness and light fighting each other eternally, is through sacrifice. Not the sacrifice of killing herself, not the sacrifice Palpatine expects, but something else, something deeper. She asks the Jedi spirits if they can take her power, if they can channel it, if she gives everything she has freely and willingly. Luke tells her yes, but warns her that doing so will kill her. She'll be pouring her entire life force into the Force itself, burning out like a star, and there's no coming back from that. Rey tells him she understands, and she's ready. If her death can save everyone else, if her sacrifice can end Palpatine forever and give the galaxy a chance for real peace, then it's worth it. She's made her choice. Anakin's Force ghost speaks to her then, his voice gentle and full of regret. He tells her what Luke once told him, what saved him from the dark side, even at the end of his life. It's never too late to make the right choice. He killed younglings, betrayed everything he believed in, served evil for decades. He did terrible things, unforgivable things. And yet, in his final moment, he chose love over hate. He chose to save his son rather than serve his master. That choice, made in an instant, redeemed everything that came before. Rey has that same power, that same choice, and he's so proud of her for making it, for understanding what he took decades to learn. Rey closes her eyes and begins the process. She opens herself completely to the Force, removing every shield, every barrier, every protection she's built around her mind and soul. She becomes a conduit, pure and empty, ready to channel power beyond anything she's ever attempted. The Jedi spirits form a circle around her, their hands raised, ready to receive what she's about to give. Leia's manifestation flickers, the General's physical body on Ajan Kloss finally giving out. But she holds on just a little longer, determined to see this through. Rey begins to release all her power into the Force, not destructively, but as a gift, a sacrifice freely given. She pours her life energy into the light, adding her strength to the chorus of Jedi spirits around her. The effect is immediate and overwhelming. The light intensifies, becomes blinding, brighter than the lightning above, brighter than 1,000 suns. The darkness recoils from it. The Sith energy that has saturated Exegol for millennia burning away like morning fog. Palpatine's lightning falters, turns back on him. The energy that was meant to destroy the Resistance fleet instead consumes the Emperor. He screams, a sound of pure rage and denial, and finally fear. Real fear. For the first time in over a century, Emperor Palpatine is truly afraid. His clone body begins to disintegrate. Flesh burning away from bone, the Sith alchemy that held him together failing in the face of so much concentrated light. His essence tries to escape, tries to find a new host, reaching out desperately for Rey, for anyone. But the light surrounds it, traps it, contains it. The Jedi spirits channel Rey's power into a cage of pure Force energy, and Palpatine's essence is caught inside. He rages and curses and threatens. But there's nothing he can do. Slowly, inexorably, the light compresses around his essence, crushing it, purifying it, unmaking it. The Emperor screams one final time, a sound that echoes across the entire galaxy, and then he's gone. Not sealed away or banished or merely defeated, but truly, finally gone. His essence is dissolved, his consciousness scattered into the Force itself, where it can never reform. The Emperor is dead. The Sith are ended. Rey collapses, her life force nearly depleted by what she's done. She falls to the polished black stone floor, her breathing shallow, her heartbeat weak and irregular. The Jedi spirits surround her, and Luke kneels beside her physical form. He tells her that she did it, that she found the way he couldn't see. She defeated the Emperor, not by becoming stronger than him, not by matching his power with her own, but by understanding what he could never understand. That there are things worth more than power, more than survival. That love and sacrifice are the greatest weapons against evil. That sometimes to win, you have to be willing to lose everything. Rey's eyes flutter closed, and for a moment, Luke fears she's gone. The light that burns twice as bright burns half as long, and Rey burned brighter than anyone. But then, impossibly, another figure appears. Ben Solo, not as Kylo Ren, but as he was before the darkness claimed him, manifests beside her. He's not a true Force ghost, doesn't have that level of mastery. But the Force itself seems to allow him this moment. Bends its own rules because some things are too important to be bound by convention. Ben has been watching from the moment Rey entered Exegol. He felt her through their Force bond, that connection that transcends space and death itself. He's been fighting to reach her, fighting against the pull of the cosmic force that wants to claim him, fighting to give her one last gift. He places his hand over Rey's heart, and his own life force, freed from his dying body somewhere in the wreckage above where he fell during Palpatine's lightning assault, flows into her. It's his choice, his sacrifice, his redemption, not just returning the favor for when she healed him, but giving everything he has left to save the person he loves, the person who never gave up on him, even when everyone else had. The granddaughter of Palpatine and the grandson of Vader, linked by a Force bond that transcends death itself, sharing life energy in a moment of perfect sacrifice and love. Ben fades away, smiling at peace in a way he never was in life. The darkness that plagued him, the conflict that tore him apart, all of it is gone. He's just Ben Solo again, and that's enough. That's more than enough. As he dissolves into the Force, he mouths words that Rey somehow hears in her mind. Thank you. And then he's gone, become one with the Force, his essence joining the great cosmic whole. And Rey gasps, her eyes opening, life returning to her in a rush. Her heart beats strong and steady. Her breathing deepens. The color returns to her face. She's alive. Against all odds, despite her sacrifice, she's alive. She sits up slowly, looking around at the throne room. The cultists have fled or are dead, crushed by falling debris as the structure begins to collapse. The pylons are cracking, the dark side energy that held them together failing. Luke's Force ghost helps her to her feet and tells her that she needs to go. Needs to get to the shuttle before the entire complex implodes. Palpatine's death has shattered the Sith alchemy that held this place together, and now Exegol itself is dying. Finn and Poe are there, having weathered the storm of light and darkness. and they grab Rey's arms to support her. She's weak, exhausted beyond measure, but she's alive, and she can move. Together, the four of them, Rey and Finn and Poe and Chewbacca, with BB-8 rolling behind, flee through the crumbling corridors. The stone walls crack and crumble around them. The ancient structure that stood for millennia is tearing itself apart in minutes. They run past cultists who are trying to escape, past artifacts thousands of years old being crushed to dust, past the laboratories where the clone bodies are burning in their tanks. They reach the shuttle just as a massive section of the ceiling collapses behind them. Poe throws himself into the pilot's seat and fires up the engines without going through any safety checks. They launch just as the platform beneath them gives way, shooting up through the chasm as the entire underground city implodes. Behind them, Exegol's surface is cracking, massive fissures opening as the planet itself begins to tear apart. The dark side energy that suffused this world is gone, and without it, whatever held this planet together is failing. They break atmosphere and enter space just as Exegol begins its death throes. In orbit, the Resistance fleet watches in awe as the Final Order Star Destroyers suddenly go dark. Without Palpatine's will to animate them, without the dark side energy he channeled through them, without the infrastructure of cultists and Sith sorcery to support them, they're just ships. Massive and powerful ships, yes. But suddenly without coordination, without leadership, without purpose. The crews are uncertain, leaderless, many of them conscripts who never wanted to serve the Emperor in the first place. Some surrender immediately. Others try to fight, but are quickly overwhelmed. The battle is won. Against all odds, impossible to believe. They've actually won. Rey's shuttle joins the Resistance fleet, and the journey back to Ajan Kloss is triumphant in a way that feels surreal. Ships from 100 worlds that answered Leia's call are celebrating, their crews unable to believe they're still alive, unable to believe they actually did it. They face the combined might of the Sith Eternal and the Final Order, and they won. The Emperor is dead. The Sith are gone. The galaxy has a chance for peace. Real peace. Not the false peace of imperial domination, but the genuine peace that comes when people are free to live their lives without fear. When they land back at the base, there's a moment of euphoria as everyone realizes what they've accomplished. People are crying and laughing and hugging strangers. Droids are beeping in celebration. Even the jungle around them seems to be celebrating, the native creatures making joyful sounds. But the celebration is short-lived when they discover Leia. The general passed away during the battle, her life force given to help Rey at the crucial moment. She became one with the Force, her sacrifice enabling Rey to call upon the Jedi spirits, her final act one of perfect love and faith. Her body is found in her quarters, peaceful, a slight smile on her lips. She died knowing they won, knowing that her son found redemption, knowing that the galaxy would have its chance at freedom. Her death is mourned, but there's also recognition that she lived her entire life fighting for this moment, for a galaxy free from tyranny. In the end, she saw that dream realized. She saw hope triumph over fear, and she passed from this life surrounded by love, which is all anyone can really ask for. The funeral is attended by representatives from across the galaxy, planets that had been silent or neutral, suddenly wanting to honor the woman who never gave up on them. Worlds that the Empire destroyed, worlds that the First Order terrorized, worlds that resisted, and worlds that collaborated, all sending delegates to pay their respects. Leia Organa was the last princess of Alderaan, the hero of the rebellion, the general who refused to surrender even when all seemed lost. She was a symbol of resistance, of hope, of the belief that ordinary people could stand against evil and win. Luke's Force ghost appears during the ceremony, standing beside Rey in the crowd. He tells her that his sister lived the way a Jedi should live, not in isolation or denial, not cut off from the world in some temple, but engaged with the world, fighting for what's right, never abandoning hope even in the darkest times. Leia showed that you didn't need to be a Jedi to serve the Force, to embody its ideals of compassion and justice. She did it through leadership, through inspiration, through sheer stubborn refusal to let evil win. Luke himself is different now, Rey notices. Brighter somehow, more present, more at peace. He explains that helping her defeat Palpatine lifted something from him, a burden he'd carried since Ben fell to the dark side. He's finally found peace, finally forgiven himself for his failures. And he understands now that failure was necessary. Without failing, without experiencing the consequences of his mistakes, he never would have learned the lessons he needed to teach Rey. Every stumble, every fall, every wrong choice, it all led to this moment, to victory, to redemption, to peace. Rey asks Luke what happens now. With the Jedi gone, with the old ways destroyed, with the Sith finally ended, what does the future hold? What role do Force users play in a galaxy that no longer needs them to fight ancient evils? Luke smiles and tells her that the future is whatever she chooses to make it. The old Jedi Order had its strengths, but also its flaws. The rigid dogma, the fear of attachment, the tendency toward isolation, all of that contributed to their downfall. Maybe it's time for something new, something that learns from past mistakes while honoring the legacy of those who came before. Maybe it's time for Jedi who don't hide from the world but engage with it. Jedi who acknowledge their emotions without being ruled by them. Jedi who understand that balance is not the absence of darkness, but the choice to embrace light even when darkness is present. Jedi who have families and connections and messy, complicated lives, but who still serve the Force, still fight for justice, still protect the innocent. Rey could build that. She has the knowledge, the power, and most importantly, the wisdom born from genuine struggle. She knows what it means to be tempted by darkness. She knows what it costs to choose the light. That knowledge is more valuable than any technique or philosophy. Rey tells Luke that she doesn't know if she's ready for that responsibility, for rebuilding the Jedi Order from nothing. Luke laughs gently and reminds her that she just defeated the most powerful Sith Lord who ever lived, ended a lineage of evil that stretched back thousands of years, and saved the entire galaxy in the process. If she can do that, she can do anything, and she won't be alone. The Force connects all things, and everyone who believes in her, everyone who stands for the light, they're all with her. Always. Some weeks pass. The galaxy begins to heal. The New Republic is reformed with lessons learned from past failures. This time, they won't ignore the threat of fascism. This time, they'll invest in defense and education and making sure every voice is heard. Worlds that were isolated reach out to each other, forming new alliances, new partnerships. Former First Order stormtroopers, like Finn and Janna, work to help others escape indoctrination and find new lives. There are programs for rehabilitation, for reintegration, for teaching these soldiers who were stolen as children that they can be something other than weapons. Poe takes a leadership role in organizing a new defense force, one that protects freedom without becoming the militaristic monstrosity the old Republic's army became. A volunteer force accountable to civilian leadership, focused on defense rather than conquest. He's good at it, good at inspiring people, good at organizing the chaos of post-war reconstruction into something functional. He thinks of Leia often, tries to lead the way she would have wanted. And Rey begins the slow work of rebuilding the Jedi, not as a monastic order cut off from the world, but as guardians who live among the people they protect. She travels from world to world, finding Force-sensitive children and young adults, offering them training if they want it, but never demanding it, never taking them from their families unless that's what everyone wants. She establishes small training centers on multiple planets instead of one grand temple, ensuring that the Jedi never become isolated from the communities they serve. She trains new students, teaching them what Luke taught her. The Force is not about power or control. It's about connection, about understanding that every action ripples outward, affecting countless lives in ways you might never see. It's about choosing, in every moment, to be better than your worst instincts, to embrace light even when darkness seems easier. She teaches them combat because the galaxy still has dangers, still has threats that need to be faced. But she also teaches them diplomacy, teaching, healing, construction. The Jedi should be able to protect, but they should also be able to build, to nurture, to create. She travels to Tatooine one day, feeling drawn there by something she doesn't fully understand, to the Lars homestead where Luke grew up. The farm has long been abandoned, reclaimed by the desert, but the bones of it remain. The moisture evaporators are rusted and broken, the buildings half buried in sand. But she can feel the echoes of the people who lived here, can feel Luke as a boy, dreaming of adventure, can feel his aunt and uncle, simple farmers who died protecting him. This is where the Skywalker story began, where a boy looked up at twin suns and dreamed of something more. Rey buries 2 lightsabers here, Luke's and Leia's, returning them to where the Skywalker legacy began. She wraps them carefully in cloth, protecting them from the sand, and places them deep enough that the shifting dunes won't expose them. It feels right, a closing of the circle. The Skywalkers are gone now, passed into legend, but their impact on the galaxy will echo forever. They stood against evil when it would have been easier to submit. They chose love over hate, hope over despair, sacrifice over selfishness. And because of their choices, the galaxy has a future. As she stands watching the twin suns set over the endless dunes, Luke's Force ghost appears one final time. He tells her that this is goodbye, at least for now. He served his purpose, helped her find her path, and now it's time for him to move on, to explore the mysteries of the Force that exist beyond death, to discover what comes next for Force ghosts who have fulfilled their purpose. But he'll be watching, always. And if she ever truly needs him, if the galaxy ever faces a threat she can't handle alone, he'll be there. The Force connects all things, and death is not as final as people believe. Rey asks if she'll see him again, and Luke's smile is warm and certain. He tells her that the Force connects all things. They'll meet again, in this life or the next, in this form or another. She should focus on living, on building something beautiful from the ashes of war. She has that power. She always did. From the moment he first saw her on Ahch-To, he knew she was special. Not because of her bloodline or her power, but because of her heart. Because she chose to be better than her circumstances, chose to believe in hope even when she had no reason to. The Force ghost begins to fade, and Luke's final words echo in Rey's mind. May the Force be with you, always. Then he's gone, truly gone, moved on to whatever comes next for those who become one with the Force. And Rey is alone with the setting suns. But she doesn't feel alone. She feels connected to everyone she's loved and lost. to the Jedi who came before, to the endless web of life that is the Force itself. Luke's presence may be gone, but his legacy remains. In her, in every student she trains, in every life she touches. She ignites a new lightsaber, one she built herself using knowledge Luke taught her and intuition gained from her journey. The blade is yellow, a color associated with Jedi sentinels who balanced combat with scholarship, action with contemplation. It represents her path, not that of the old Jedi or the Sith, but something new, something that honors both sides of herself. She is Rey, and she is enough. An old woman approaches from the nearby settlement, one of the few who still live on Tatooine, one of the few who remember the Skywalkers. She asks Rey who she is, this stranger burying lightsabers and watching the sunset. Rey thinks for a moment, considering the question that has haunted her entire life. Who is she? She's not Palpatine, refused that legacy with every fiber of her being. She's not a Skywalker by blood, but by choice, by the bonds of mentorship and love that mean more than genetics ever could. She introduces herself with confidence and peace. Rey Skywalker. The old woman nods approvingly, seeing the truth in that claim, and leaves Rey to her meditation. The galaxy begins to heal. The New Republic works to right the wrongs of the Empire and the First Order, to restore freedom to worlds that were enslaved, to rebuild what was destroyed. It's slow work, difficult work, the kind of work that takes generations. But it's being done with hope, with the belief that things can be better. Former enemies work together. Former Imperial officers who regret their choices serve alongside rebels. Former First Order soldiers who escaped their conditioning help others escape theirs. The cycle of hatred is breaking, slowly but surely. And Rey trains her new Jedi, teaching them what Luke taught her. The Force is not about power or control. It's about connection, about understanding, about choosing the light even when darkness would be easier. She tells them about Luke Skywalker, about Leia Organa, about Anakin Skywalker's redemption. She tells them about the old Jedi and their mistakes, about the Sith and their evil, about the eternal struggle between light and dark. And she teaches them that this struggle isn't out there in the galaxy. It's inside each of them, every day, in every choice they make. The Sith are gone, their cycle of hatred finally broken after thousands of years. The Jedi live again, transformed by the hard lessons of the past. And the galaxy, scarred but unbowed, begins to write a new story, not one of perfect heroes and absolute villains, but of ordinary people making extraordinary choices, of hope persisting in the face of despair, of light enduring even in the darkest places. Luke Skywalker's ghost may have moved on, but his legacy remains in every student Rey teaches, in every world that finds peace, in every person who chooses compassion over cruelty. He guided one last journey, helped defeat an ancient evil one final time, and in doing so, finally found the redemption that eluded him in life. His father's legacy of fall and redemption was honored. His sister's legacy of resistance and hope was fulfilled. And his student, Rey, carries forward a new legacy, one that honors the past while forging a new future. The Force is with them, with all of them, now and always, forever connecting the past to the present, the living to the dead, the darkness to the light. And in that connection, there is hope. There is always hope. That's what the Jedi taught. That's what the rebellion fought for. That's what Rey believes with every fiber of her being. And as long as someone believes, as long as someone carries that light forward, the darkness can never truly win. The story continues, as it always has, as it always will, forever echoing across the stars.